Hello and welcome. I'm Jess Campmans, guided by Equus, and I am here with your Horse Wisdom Insights for the week of February 1st. All the calves are supporting this video today and for the week of February 1st. And I'm here, I came out and these guys were all gathered around the bale. And as I walked out to them, they walked over to me, and then they all kind of passed and they all came to drink. And so part of the message this week feels like gathering, and it's really interesting actually, because Fancy is what I would call the lead mare in this herd, and she's come over here and she's actually letting everyone else drink before she moves in. And so with that, and that actually hasn't been her normal experience of being in this herd, but it feels like she's evolving, which feels like it's a reflection of my own sense of evolving. And part of the energy, I guess, of this week is the idea of the word unorthodox. And so without even really knowing fully what that word means, what I feel like it is in relationship to the horses and their wisdom for us as souls is to, this week there is what feels like an invitation and a catalyst for a new way of being in a relationship that is unorthodox to us. So not something that we've known thus far, and yet it's based on a quality that's very intrinsic and deep within us. So a very authentic connection through a way of letting go of the parameters of what we've known or have been attached to as to how to be in this relationship. And essentially it's a relationship with ourself, with our soul, with the wisdom and the nature of who we truly are. And even the weather right now is supporting us. The horses, I realized just yesterday, so on the 31st of January, I was noticing that they're starting to shed, which is not really normal for this time. And even though I know that there's a cold snap coming, just the idea of that they're starting to shed their winter hair, what they've grown to adapt to their environment, is kind of like us shedding those old patterns that we've known how to grow through, so that we adapted to the environment that we grew up in, or how we related to other human beings. And our animals are always in relationship with us, showing the potential that exists within us, as well as those patterns that we have created our structures through so that we could adapt to our environments. And oftentimes that meant letting go of who we really are, except for you can't really let go of something that is yours. So it's within you, and yet there's all of these structures and walls and patterns that we've created and now exist within in our lives in order to protect us, to keep us safe, to help us feel secure and certain. And if there's anything about life, it's that all of that is a false representation. It's an illusion. And I love that these guys have now actually all gathered kind of at the gate. And so this week also feels about like a calling, something that is calling in the background, that we kind of have been gathering ourselves to pass through this gateway of, and it's actually, so if they were to go out the gate, they would essentially be free. And it's that is within us, is releasing ourselves from the restrictions that we're limited to within these patterns of being, because oftentimes that means suppressing who we really are, or our emotions, or ways of being true to the nature of who we are, whether that is really sensitive, really in tune with something that then becomes considered weird. But if you change the lettering in weird around, it actually says wired. And it's interesting because that was part of one of my last stories that I wrote for the book From Crappy to Happy. And in one of the astrologer people that I follow, that's what she's been talking about, is if we change the lettering of weird around, it becomes wired. So we are all wired in a certain way, but when we have to adapt in order to fit into the environment that we need to grow into, or grow through, or grow within as a child or a young adult, or just to be able to survive, we often give up a piece of ourselves that then needs nurturing and rebirthing back into the world. Who's this? Oh, hi, Raven. And Raven's soul wisdom is about conceiving. And so it's kind of like what we are opening up to conceive from this new place that we are having to adapt to. And these guys have all kind of come into this small pen, even though they have their larger pen out there. And it's not because I'm here, because half the time they leave me, so I have to go seek them. But right now it really feels representative of where we found ourselves in this space, and how it is that we need to kind of gather, and what we need to recognize where we are within this space that we have created for ourselves to, I guess, find ourselves in, and to kind of become aware of all of these patterns through our experiences and through our relationships as a reflection of what we're holding within us, within ourselves, as both limiting ways of being in the world, ways that limit our authenticity, as well as that potential that also exists within us when we are able to see these patterns and these relationships and kind of break them down into bite-sized pieces so that we can digest them and transform them. Because it is through, we all have this within us, this ability to tune into our environment, tune into what is within us, but it is that thing within us that we've tried to protect and keep safe because of how we've had to adapt to different situations and environments and trauma, and how we've adapted that has essentially kept us safe at that point in time, but is not helpful for where we're going. Because where we're going, those survival mechanisms won't work, because where we're going is a place of expansion, and you're doing one of two things. If you're in protection mode, you're kind of suppressing, right? You're contracting your energy. And the opposite is letting go and growing and expanding. And so even though it might seem like you're growing and expanding, if there's still a part of you that's in that protection mode, and I know this very well for myself, because this has been coming into my awareness lately, and that's kind of why I'm speaking to it. When you're in that protection mode, that defensive mode, that part of you can't grow. It can't expand. And so while it might seem like you're growing and expanding in other areas of your life, if there's still this one part of you that you're protecting, or you're in defensive mode around, that really brings you out of balance. So just kind of taking a breath on all of that. And if this leads you, if anything's kind of coming up for you around this, or you're paying attention this week to how your world is responding to this message for you in your environment, then notice also what part of you feels trapped and what part of you feels like it's leading the way. Because often we might be feeling like we're pulled in two different directions, and that's because there is part of us that's still growing and moving forward. And yet if there's the sense of feeling stuck, it's because part of you is trapped or stuck back here somewhere. And I'm actually standing with my right leg forward and my left leg back, because that's my experience of what I'm having to recognize and realize that I'm holding within my body as a physical imbalance, and also being able to move out into the world. And activating potential means our ability to express what we have within us and move it out into the world. And so for me, if I just recognize how my feet are standing, I've always been leading with my right foot forward, while my left foot kind of comes in quietly behind to support. And the left side of our body is that feminine side, that intuitive side, because it's related to our right brain. And so it's like that side's coming along, but that really isn't helping me for where I'm going with this work, with who I am as a soul. And so it's being able to identify those pieces and then not keep them in your mental mind, but actually drop into your body. And through my horses, how they've helped me recognize and start to respond to this, is helping me find this pathway forward of acknowledging and recognizing. And if I'd gotten to the release stage yet, then I would be leading with my left foot. But this is Mahina. And so it's leading the way forward through the light, because Mahina is representative of the light of the moon. And so the moon is our emotions and who we are, the nature of who we are, and what needs to be nurtured and nourished within us on a really deep intrinsic level, so that we can function in this world of physicality and matter, in connection with the needs of our emotions and our spirit, that is all calling us forth. And one last piece, Sadie was just moved outside of this pen by Fancy. And so Fancy's soul wisdom is to inquire, and Sadie's is to return. So it's like there's a whole big piece right now around inquiring as to where we are at with everything that's going on in our world, in this space that we find ourselves in, so we can step out and return to the nature of who we are. And the more we follow up with those pieces that we feel guided towards or supported through, versus those ones that we might want to say no to or that don't feel right for us, and without judgment in that. And by that I mean, if there is someone that everyone else is following and something about this person just doesn't feel right for you, trust that. Because the more we trust these deep needs, they'll guide you to the things that will support you to be able to return and release and let go and find. And this is Falcon, and his is corroborating, his soul wisdom. And so corroborating is finding the strength and the support through being who you are to be able to really bring those pieces of yourself out into the world. So much love from myself and Raven, Falcon, who's at Bo, and all of the horses here. And February seems like it will be kind of a bit of a breather for us to almost get in touch with ourselves in a different way, an unorthodox way that is unorthodox for us. So whatever that means for you in your life up to this point, that might be something that somebody else already does, but if it's new to you, then play with it, because it's helping you return to that original nature of who you are at the core of your being and who you came here to be. And we all need who we each came here to be to really step up and lead the way and speak what it is that we value and what we treasure and what we cherish in our lives, so that we can each kind of become our own leader of self, and that will actually ignite even more inspiration for others to do the same, rather than looking outside of themselves to try and find what it is that they think they need. So much love to you guys from myself and all of these horses here, and I look forward to sharing more horse wisdom insights for 2021.